My name is Heidi Enlow, and I am the case manager here at Support After Abortion. We're very grateful to have each and every one of you with us at our deep dive suicide conversation today. It's a topic that we are learning more and more is coming up, and we desire that each of you feel more equipped and educated on the topic. And so we are grateful to have Amy with us again. Amy Vogel is a licensed mental health counselor in private practice, pursuing her PhD. She is pursuing her PhD in counselor education and supervision. She specializes in traumatic grief and disfranchised bereavement and has over 10 years of experience providing crisis counseling and grief support services. Her research and advocacy focuses on effective suicide bereavement interventions. Amy has led survivor support groups and serves on boards of Suicide Prevention and Operation Solid 7. She is a certified clinical trauma professional and is certified in thanatology. And so we are grateful to have you here with us today. And so, Amy, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Heidi. Good afternoon, everyone. Today, we are going to be talking about a crucial topic, and that is caring for clients who are experiencing suicidal thoughts and behaviors. All of us here are helpers in some sort of capacity, and we all know how challenging and emotionally taxing it can be to work with clients who are in such a vulnerable state. We want to do everything that we can to support them, keep them safe, and help them find resources to keep living. But sometimes it can feel like we're just not quite sure what to say or do. And that's basically the idea of a suicide intervention toolbox comes in today. Over the course of this presentation, I'm going to be sharing with you a range of practical tools, strategies, and resources that you can use when working with suicidal clients. These are techniques that have been developed and validated by experts in the field of suicide prevention, and they can make a real difference in our ability to be able to help clients. But before we dive into the specifics, I want to take a moment to acknowledge the profound importance of this work. Suicide is a major public health issue, and it states individuals, families, and communities. And as helpers, we have this unique opportunity and responsibility to intervene, to help our clients find hope and meaning, even in their darkest moments. So throughout this presentation, we're going to be focusing not just on the practical tools, but also in the underlying spirit of compassion and empathy that is so essential to this work. Caring for suicidal clients requires us to bring our full selves to the task, our knowledge, our skills, and most importantly, our humanity. So we're going to embark on this journey. We're going to fill our toolboxes with valuable resources, and we're going to renew our commitment to supporting our clients through their most challenging times. Remember, every life is precious, and the work that you all do matters profoundly. So today, just an overview of the key ideas is we're going to talk about the importance of even learning about suicide intervention and suicide in general, our attitudes and beliefs about suicide, factors. Now, this is just a little bit of a deeper dive into the factors, because in the first session, we really went over the 3 historical and environmental and all those factors. Then we're going to get nerdy, and we're going to talk about the neuroanatomy of suicide. And then we're going to talk about a deeper dive into the Columbia Suicide Severity Rating Scale and the Stanley Brown Safety Plan. So when it comes to assessing for suicide, it is important to understand that traditional methods may not always be the most effective. In the past, assessments often focused on asking people if they were depressed or thinking about harming themselves. But research has shown that this approach can miss some important factors. So instead of just looking at suicidal thoughts as a sign that someone might attempt suicide, we need to consider the different paths that can lead to suicidal behavior. This means asking questions that get at the emotions and experiences that can make people feel vulnerable, like believing that others would be better off without them or feeling like no one can help them solve their problems. It's also crucial to recognize that suicidal behavior can look different in different groups of people. For example, Black teenagers might engage in risky or aggressive behaviors that could lead to harm or death rather than directly attempting suicide. When assessing for suicide risk in these populations, it's important to ask about these kind of behaviors and to look for sources of strength and support within their communities. Another challenge in assessing suicide risk is that young people might be hesitant to open up about their suicidal feelings because they're worried about confidentiality. I know in Florida, there's something called the Baker Act, which every state has. It's a 72-hour hold if someone is suicidal. So every state has their own kind of verbiage surrounding that. And I know with young teen, 16, 15-year-olds, they're very scared to talk to someone because they feel like they're just going to be automatically Baker acted. So really being able to address their concerns and work together with these young people to come up with a plan, maybe even for sharing information with parents is necessary, and just basically making the teenager feel as comfortable as possible. The way we ask questions about suicide also matters. If we ask in a way that suggests that we expect the answer to be no, people might hide their true feelings. Instead, helpers should ask about suicidal thoughts and behaviors in an open, non-judgmental way. Overall, assessing for suicide risk involves more than just asking about depression and thoughts of harm. Helpers can use evidence-based screening tools and consider the unique factors that can contribute to suicidal ideation and behaviors in different individuals and communities. By taking a comprehensive, collaborative approach to assessment, we can better identify those who may be at risk and connect them with the support they need. Attitudes and beliefs about suicide are very complex and multifaceted, influenced by various factors such as religion, culture, and personal experience. Even financial situations and mental health all play a role in shaping our perceptions about suicide. It's important to recognize that different communities and cultures can have vastly different views on this subject. For instance, in some places like China, where religion might not be a significant part of their life, opinions on suicide can be mixed. Understanding these diverse attitudes is crucial in supporting those affected by suicide and working towards prevention. Research has shown that individuals facing a higher risk of suicide often hold negative views toward those who attempt or die by suicide. And these stigmatizing attitudes can create barriers, making it challenging for people to open up about their struggles and seek help. The fear of being judged or discriminated against may even influence how they contemplate ending their lives. A recent study from Australia found that people who have negative perceptions of those who die by suicide, such as thinking they are cowardly or immoral, are more likely to have negative attitudes about seeking help for their own emotional problems. This study also revealed that people struggling with suicidal thoughts or depression often have more negative attitudes about getting help and are less likely to reach out compared to others. This highlights the importance of creating a supportive and understanding environment where people feel comfortable seeking assistance. However, on a positive note, the research has found that people with higher levels of, we're going to use the word, suicide literacy, meaning they understand the warning signs, the causes, and the risk factors for suicide, and know that it can be prevented and treated, are more likely to have positive attitudes about seeking help. The study also pointed out that younger people and men tend to have more negative attitudes about getting help compared to older individuals and women. This suggests that public education campaigns aimed at increasing knowledge about suicide and reducing negative attitudes should focus on reaching these groups. And you guys are here today. It's a education campaign that we have going on right now. So while there has been progress in how society views suicide over time, a significant amount of stigma still lingers. This stigma can manifest in various forms of discrimination and prejudice, casting a shadow on individuals' willingness to seek support and talk about their mental health challenges openly. Certain beliefs about suicide, such as the misconception that most individuals who die by suicide are mentally ill, did not show significant variations based on factors like gender or age, suggesting a potential lack of understanding within the general population. So, to address these issues, it is essential to work towards increasing suicide literacy and reducing the stigma surrounding suicide. And by fostering a more supportive and understanding environment, we can create this space for open conversations and effective support systems for those struggling with suicidal thoughts. This can be a really powerful step in preventing suicide and supporting those who may be struggling. So let's talk about some of these attitudes and beliefs here in this little Zoom meeting in our little classroom here. I know when my grandfather died by suicide, my mom was so angry and kept calling him a coward. Maybe you might be sitting here in this room thinking the same way, very negative. I felt like he was hurting and did not want anyone to know because he was supposed to be strong. So what are some of your beliefs about suicide? And you know what? It's okay to mention those negative ones because it's important to process them. Remember, I mentioned my mom was like, he's a coward. All these words, it's better to really get these out and process them rather than holding them in. If we can't get past our attitudes and our beliefs, how can we truly be there for someone? But when you work on them and you start to understand why you have these, your attitudes and beliefs, number one, are created from a learned experience. So trying to relearn things, that can be very hard. In assessing the risk of suicidal thoughts, it's crucial to consider both risk factors and protective factors. We didn't really use the word protective factors last time, so this is new. But risk factors are elements that can increase the likelihood of suicide, such as past trauma. It could be an abortion. It can be a rape that someone experienced. It could be there. We actually, I know not all of you are from Florida, but we had a pretty bad hurricane about a year and a half or so, almost 2 years ago. And there was actually quite a few suicides in the county I live in. So even a natural disaster can cause suicide. Triggering event, feelings of hopelessness, or even anger. And it's important to identify which of these risk factors can be changed to reduce the risk of suicide. On the other hand, protective factors are like shields that can buffer individuals from suicidal thoughts and behaviors. These include access to support, strong relationships, coping skills, and cultural or religious beliefs that discourage suicide. By enhancing these protective factors, we can strengthen an individual's resilience and reduce the risk of suicidal ideation. Therefore, by addressing and modifying risk factors while increasing the protective factors, we can work towards reducing the risk of suicide and promoting mental well-being. So it's essential to create and consider both aspects when assessing and supporting individuals who might be experiencing suicidal thoughts. So we decrease risk factors and increase protective factors. I'll give you an example. So my medications, I took them in the night. Now we're taking them in the morning. So the morning time is when I'm really struggling. So my whole family, they're like babysitting me to make sure I'm okay. So my son, he graduates next Friday, and he's not in school right now because they're done. But he was like, my whole family knows about suicide. My daughter was 5. My son was 7 when my grandfather died by suicide. So they're very aware of suicide. And he was like, Mom, we're going on a trip. We're going to go to Publix. We're going to go to the post office, and I need some shampoo. And that's what we did. This is impressive. He decreased my risk factor, and increased my protective factors. He also took all my medications away from me. 18 years old. And my daughter does the exact same thing. She did this in middle school with a friend who was really struggling. She can't just say, Mom, I decreased the risk factors and increased the protective factors, but that is exactly what she did. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. The more we talk about it, the more people are comfortable sharing their true feeling. Okay. I am very aware that this slide is overwhelming, and quite frankly, it's a little bit nerdy. And yes, I made it myself. Pretty proud of it. We're not going to dive right into it. We're just going to talk a little bit, so bear with me. This information is based to help us understand that neurobiological factors can increase suicidal thoughts. So I want you to picture this. Throughout your life, you face trauma and stress. We all do. It's the facts of life, right? These experiences can actually contribute to suicidal behavior over time. When we are stressed, our body has a little stress response system that involves the HPA axis. That stands for the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis. And so this system works together with serotonin, norepinephrine, and polyamine systems. And these are all influenced by our genes. So when we're under stress, our hypothalamus releases a hormone called CRH. And CRH then triggers the pituitary gland to release another hormone called ACTH. And that hormone stimulates the adrenal glands to release cortisol, which is the stress hormone. So researchers have discovered that people who have died by suicide, because you can actually research the post-mortem brain of people who have died by suicide or attempted suicide, often have abnormal levels of these hormones. Okay, but that's not all. Serotonin and norepinephrine, which play a role in suicidal behavior. And studies have found that people who have died by suicide have deficits in serotonin signaling and increasing noractivity. So even if all these words sound confusing, what I want you to hear is deficits in serotonin. That's not good. So I actually got my brain scanned last year, actually almost a year ago. I got it scanned at it's called a brain spec scan, scanned at a concentration and then a relaxation. Come to find out, Amy's brain never relaxes. It's always on the go. It's very impulsive, which impulsiveness has been found to be a contributor to suicide, which is very interesting because I have a long line of suicide in my family history. For example, my great-grandmother had a lobotomy because that's what they did back in the day. So they basically shut off all of her neurotransmitters. This was the mother of my grandfather who died by suicide, which I find very interesting. And being able to see my brain and be able to be like, oh, yeah, okay, I'm not crazy. There's something going on with my brain. It's not just because I'm sad or because I think I'm a bad person. There's actual things happening in my brain. It's not just about the hormones and emitters, though. The way our genes are expressed and function can also contribute to suicidal behavior and increase the likelihood of developing psychiatric disorders. This is where it gets a little fascinating. Traumatic events can have lifelong effects on our genes through epigenetic changes. And these changes can lead to suicidal behavior. For instance, changes in a gene called the FKBP5 can make a person more vulnerable to stress. With this epigenetic situation that can increase the trauma, if you've ever noticed a client and traumatic responses, behaviors that are abnormal, and then you learn about their history, and then you learn about maybe their grandparents or as far back as you can remember. And they have these patterns of what we thought was just learned behaviors, but epigenetics. So the fact that the neuroanatomy and all this research that has been found really helps understand the suicidal mind. It's not just, oh, I feel bad about life, I just don't want to live anymore. This is actually a brain disease. The epigenetic changes can also impact neuroplasticity, which is the brain's ability to adapt and change. This happens because epigenetics influence the neurotropic deficiencies. So to bring this all together, researchers have proposed the LifeScan model, which combines the stress diathesis model and, if you remember from the last session, the interpersonal theory of suicide. And this model tries to provide a neurobiological explanation for suicidal behavior. However, it's crucial to remember that more research is needed to completely understand suicidal behavior. So this is a very complex issue with many contributing factors. And if the only thing that you got out of this slide is that biology can be a contributing factor in suicide, then we got a high five going on. So that's really what I want you to notice, is that this is not just sadness. This is not just trauma. This is like actual changing of your neuroplasticity. So a lot of things going on here. Now that we've looked at some risk factors, protective factors, and the neurobiological of your lifespan, let's look at the actual scale. We talked about this in the last session, but now we're going to begin a deeper dive into the suicide risk assessment tool. The Columbia Suicide Severity Rating Scale, or for short, the CSSRS, is a powerful and widely used tool designed to help identify and assess suicidal thoughts and behaviors in individuals. This was developed by leading universities in the United States, including Columbia University, with support from the National Institute of Mental Health. The C has been extensively researched for over 20 years and is considered the gold standard in the field of suicidology. One of the key advantages of the CSSRS is its simplicity and the ease of its use. The scale features straightforward questions that can be administered by anyone, even those with minimal training. So that means everybody here can administer this assessment. It is available in more than 150 languages and can be easily integrated into an electronic medical records models. If you use any kind of medical records type database, most of the time you can take the scale and enter it into the database. When administering the CSSRS, helpers ask a series of questions about the person's suicidal thoughts and behaviors. The questions are designed to gauge the seriousness of the individual's risk and determine the urgency of the needed support. The exact questions asked depend on the person's answers, creating a personalized assessment tailored to their specific situation. The CS questions cover various aspects of suicidal ideation and behavior, from passive thoughts like wishing to be dead to active thoughts about specific methods of suicide. This scale also inquires about any steps taken to prepare for a suicide attempt, such as collecting pills, obtaining a gun, or even writing a suicide note. So by asking these direct, clear questions, this RS helps identify individuals at risk of suicide, enabling helpers like you all to connect them with the appropriate support and resources. So studies have demonstrated the CSSRS effectiveness in detecting signs of suicidal thinking, with a sensitivity of 67% and a positive predictive value of 14%. This means that the scale can identify a significant portion of at-risk individuals. And when it does, there's a good chance they truly need help. Organizations like you all here represented today using the CSSRS can establish your own guidelines for action based on the individual's responses, ranging from immediate hospitalization to referrals, 911, counseling, or other support services. This tool is powerful, evidence-based, and it has been widely adopted, not just in the United States, but worldwide. It's straightforward, Accessible design and strong research foundation make it an invaluable asset to fight against suicide. Helping helpers identify at-risk individuals and then being able to connect them to support to be able to help promote their mental health and well-being. So let's break this down a little bit into sections so we can gain a deeper understanding in how to use this tool. So when administering the CSSRS, the first two questions are crucial for gauging a person's suicidal thoughts. These questions are asked in relation to the past month, as recent thoughts of suicide and feelings are often the most relevant when assessing someone's current risk. So the first question is, have you wished you were dead or wish you could go to sleep and not wake up? This question is designed to identify passive suicidal thoughts. Passive suicidal thoughts are when a person feels like they don't want to live anymore, but they don't necessarily have a plan to end their life. They might wish that they could go to sleep and may never wake up. But while these thoughts may not indicate an immediate risk of suicide, they're still concerning and need to be taken seriously. The second question is, have you had any actual thoughts of killing yourself? And I think it's actually important to say that out loud before you ever ask anyone that. Say it out loud. Look at yourself in the mirror and say, have you had thoughts of killing yourself? That might be the hardest thing. And then wondering, what are they going to say? Yes. What's going to happen? You just got to focus on this assessment in your heart and give that humanity to that person. You guys are all empathetic in this room. I know because of the work you guys are doing. So your empathy and humanity is there. So this question goes a step farther and asks about active suicidal thoughts. Active suicidal thoughts are when the person is actually considering ending their life. They might be thinking about specific methods or making plans. This is a more serious level of suicidal ideation and indicates a higher risk of suicide. By asking these two questions, we can get a sense of whether a person is experiencing suicidal thoughts and how serious those thoughts are. If someone answers yes to either of these questions, it's a red flag that may be at risk of suicide and needs support. It is important to note that asking these questions directly doesn't put the idea of suicide in someone's head. If a person isn't having suicidal thoughts, asking about it won't make them start. But if they are having these thoughts, asking directly lets them know it's okay to talk about it and that there is help available. So these first two questions of this assessment are a key part of assessing suicide risk. They can help identify people who are struggling with suicidal thoughts so we can get them to the support that they need. So now we're going to look at questions 3, 4, and 5. If a person answers yes to the second question, indicating they've had actual thoughts of killing themselves, the CSSRS directs us to ask a series of follow-up questions. These questions, numbers 3, 4, and 5, are designed to gauge the severity and intensity of the person's suicidal thoughts. So let's look at question 3. It asks, have you been thinking about how you might do this? This question is trying to determine if the person has considered specific methods for ending their life. Have they thought about using pills, a gun, a bridge? I had someone one time say it was very specific and it was an adolescent, but there was a water tower near them. And that's what people are very creative. Really getting that information about those specific methods is important. Having a plan indicates a higher level of risk, as it suggests the person has given serious thought about how they would attempt suicide. Question 4 goes a step further, asking, have you had these thoughts and had some intention of acting on them? So this question is assessing whether the person has not only thought about methods, but has also had some intention to follow through with those thoughts. Intention to act is a serious warning sign that the person may be closer to attempting suicide. You can see on question 3, there's a yellow. And then on question 4, it's red. And question 5, it's red. When it says that this is simple, straightforward, they're not joking. This is simple, straightforward. Now we are at question 5. Question 5 is perhaps the most critical. It asks, have you started to work out or worked out the details of how to kill yourself? Did you intend to carry out this plan? This question is looking for a concrete steps the person may have taken to prepare for a suicide attempt. Have they collected pills? Have they collected pills, obtained a gun, or written a suicide note? Have they made a specific plan for when, where, and how they would attempt suicide? And most importantly, did they intend to follow through this plan? Answering yes to any of questions 3, 4, and 5 is a major red flag. It suggests that the person's suicidal thoughts are serious and that they might be at high risk of attempting suicide in the near future. The more yes answers the person gives, the higher the risk. It's important to remember that asking these questions is not about judgment or getting someone in trouble. Remember those attitudes and beliefs and that openness and that empathy. It's about understanding the severity of their situation so we can provide the right level of support. You can think of triaging. This is what you're doing. If you take that word suicide out of there and you're just triaging and assessing to see how you can better help this person, that might help until you start feeling more comfortable. If someone is having serious suicidal thoughts with plans and intent, they need immediate help to stay safe. So questions 3, 4, and 5 of the CSSRS are crucial for determining how serious a person's suicidal thoughts are and whether they're at imminent risk of attempting suicide. And by asking these questions, we can identify those who need the most urgent support and intervention. All right. Question 6. This is the last question of the CSSRS, and it is one that we always ask, regardless of how the person answered the previous questions. This question is perhaps the most critical of all, as it asks directly about suicidal actions. Question 6 asks, have you done anything, started to do anything, or prepared to do anything to end your life? This question is looking for any actions the person may have taken to prepare for or attempt suicide. Again, this could include giving possessions away, writing a suicide note, collecting pills, or obtaining a gun. If the person answers yes to this question, we then ask a follow-up. Was this within the past 3 months? This helps us to understand how recent the action was. A recent action is more concerning than something that happened a long time ago, as it suggests the person may be in a current suicidal crisis. So it's important to note this question isn't just asking about suicide attempts, it's also asking about preparatory behaviors. Someone might not have actually tried to end their life, but if they started giving away their possessions or have bought a gun with the intention of using it on themselves, that's a serious warning sign. So answering yes to question 6 is an emergency situation. Danger. It means the person has taken steps to end their life and may be in imminent danger. They need immediate support and intervention to ensure their safety. This is why we always ask question 6, even if the person said no to the previous questions about suicidal thoughts. So sometimes a person might deny having suicidal thoughts, but still have taken action towards suicide. Asking this question directly can uncover critical information that might otherwise be missed. So again, question 6 is the vital part of this assessment, as it helps identify people who are at the highest risk of suicide, those who have not only thought about it, but may have actually taken steps towards ending their life. By asking this question, we can make sure that individuals get the urgent help that they need to stay safe. I know I broke this all up into pieces, but this is what it looks like. I know it's probably very small on your screen. However, this is what the CS looks in its actual entirety. So what do we do? What is happening? What do we do if they say yes, no, maybe? Depending on the severity and your organization's protocol, safety planning is essential. The Stanley Brown Safety Plan is a widely used evidence-based tool designed to help individuals who are experiencing suicidal thoughts or behaviors. This was developed by Dr. Barbara Stanley and Dr. Gregory Brown. This plan is a practical step-by-step guide that clients can use to manage their suicidal thoughts and stay safe during a crisis. This is my favorite. I love this. I think it's good for everyone because it helps people. Whenever we get in a crisis, it can really help. You'll see that as we go through it. The beauty of the Stanley Brown Safety Plan is it's not just generic, a one-size-fits-all document. It's actually a personalized plan that the client develops in collaboration with the helper. And this collaboration approach ensures that the plan is tailored to the individual's unique needs, circumstances, and preference. The plan typically includes 6 key steps. The first one is you're going to help them identify their own warning signs. So the client learns to recognize the thoughts, images, moods, or behaviors that typically precede a suicidal crisis. So they're noticing, hey, this happened last time I felt suicidal. I'm going to jot these down so I can recognize, because remember the deep black hole I was telling you about? This is a light. This is a light in your deep black hole for your suicidal client. Number 2 is employing internal coping strategies. The plan lists coping strategies that the individual can use on their own to manage their thoughts and emotions, such as relaxation techniques, physical activity, or even positive self-talk. I find Googling with them very helpful, like coping strategies, because I promise you, you're not going to have the same coping strategies as the person you're working with. Not everybody enjoys puzzles or trying to play a violin. This is what I've learned. Step 3, utilizing social contacts and social settings for distraction. Keyword distraction. These aren't people who are helpers, okay? The client identifies people and places that can provide a healthy distraction from their suicidal thoughts. So maybe going to a Starbucks, that can provide a distraction. Let's see. Trying to think of somebody who would provide a distraction for me. Usually I tell my mom, my husband, one of my friends, I usually tell them everything. I would not put those people down. They would be in number 4 supports that we're going to talk about in a second. These are just people who are distractions. They make you laugh. They just like to hang out, have fun. Number 4, these are contacting family members or friends who may offer help. So the plan lists trusted individuals whom the client can reach out to for support during a crisis. So for example, lately it's been my mom and my husband. Number 5, you're going to contact mental health professionals or agencies. So you can put kind of anything in here. The client includes contact information for if a therapist, if they have one, psychiatrist, if they have one, but a local crisis line is vital. So you can do the national hotline, which is 988. Definitely put that on there. There's also a crisis text line. You can text home to 741-741. All right, step 6, reducing the potential for use of lethal means. So this plan includes steps for making the client's environment safer, such as removing firearms or stockpiled medications. What's powerful about the Stanley Brown Safety Plan is that it empowers the clients that you're working with by taking an active role in managing their own safety. It's not just about what the helper can do for the client, but what the client can also do for themselves. Research has shown that the Stanley Brown Safety Plan can be a highly effective tool for reducing suicidal behaviors and increasing treatment engagement. So if you're working with clients who are at risk of suicide, incorporating this plan into your organization can really be a powerful tool to enhance your client's safety and well-being. When you're working with suicidal clients, it's crucial for helpers to prioritize self-care. Engaging in regular self-care practices can prevent burnout, maintain emotional well-being, and ensure that we're providing the best possible care to our clients. One important aspect of self-care is debriefing. Regularly debriefing and discussing challenging cases and emotions with colleagues can provide invaluable support, perspective, and guidance. These conversations, whether informal or structured, offer an opportunity to process difficult experience and learn from others. Another key element of self-care is setting boundaries between our work and personal lives. Not gonna lie, I'm still working on this one. However, maintaining a healthy work-life balance involves setting those clear boundaries, such as not checking work emails outside of work hours and dedicating time to hobbies and activities unrelated to work. By creating a clear separation between our professional and personal lives, we can recharge, avoiding becoming overwhelmed, and ensure that we have the time and the space to take care of ourselves and engage us in activities that bring us joy and relaxation. And lastly, incorporating mindfulness and relaxation techniques into our daily routine is a powerful self-care practice. So techniques such as deep breathing, meditation, prayer, or yoga can help manage stress, promote a sense of calm, and improve overall well-being. So taking a few minutes each day to focus on our breath or engage in a relaxation exercise can really help us stay grounded and better equipped to handle these emotional challenges of all the work that you guys do. By prioritizing self-care through practices like this debriefing, setting boundaries, and engaging in mindfulness, we as helpers can maintain our own emotional resilience and well-being. This in turn allows us to provide the highest quality care for our clients who are struggling with suicidal thoughts and behaviors. So I feel like this is so very important. I have a case study to share with you. It might not be completely applicable for your situation, but bear with me. We're going to talk about Sarah. Sarah, this is fictional, obviously. Sarah's a 25-year-old woman, and she attends a support group after having an abortion. She's been feeling overwhelmed with emotions and has been experiencing suicidal thoughts. So Emily is one of the trained facilitators, and she takes the lead in supporting Sarah. Emily begins by creating this safe, non-judgmental space within the group for Sarah to be able to share her feelings. Emily models active listening and validates Sarah's emotions, acknowledging the complexity of her situation. So this helps Sarah feel more comfortable opening up to the group. So you can already see everything that we've learned thus far is just in that little part. Keywords: safe, non-judgmental, active listening, validating, acknowledging the complexity. Emily went to this training done by Amy Vogel, and I'm going to use the Columbia Suicide Severity Rating Scale, aka CSSRS. And Emily guides the group in assessing Sarah's risk of suicide. So she asked the group to listen carefully as she goes through the questions with Sarah. So she asked Sarah, have you wished you were dead or wished you could go to sleep and not wake up? And then the second question, have you had any actual thoughts of killing yourself? So Sarah responds yes to both questions, indicating that she has been experiencing suicidal ideation. And also, did you notice that Emily, in the first question, personalized it? Sarah, have you wished you were dead or wished you could go to sleep and not wake up? And I love that because I remember one time I had somebody was using this assessment on me, and they sat there with like a clipboard. They were like, have you wished you were dead or wished you could go to sleep and not wake up? That was not open. It was not compassionate, empathetic, or understanding. It was, this girl is losing her mind and I need to see if she's suicidal or not, so we have to keep her. But you know what? I lied to that lady. I was like, I'm good. I'm good. But see, her missed opportunity was she wasn't observing my behaviors because I wasn't good. I wasn't good at all. It's also that gut intuition that you need to follow too. Okay. So since Sarah responded yes to both the questions, that means that Emily will proceed to questions 3, 4, and 5 to gauge the severity of Sarah's thoughts. So remember, these questions are 3, have you been thinking about how you might do this? Now, you don't have to say it verbatim. You could be, it just has to be, it has to be clear. But if you like misinterpret a little word, it's okay. So try to make it conversational. Question 4, have you had these thoughts and had some intention of acting on them? And then wait, listen. The 5th question, have you started to work out or worked out the details of how to kill yourself? Do you intend to carry out this plan? Okay, so I know these are all separate questions. We're just combining. Sarah reveals to the group that she has thought about overdosing on pills, but has not made a concrete plan or taken any steps to acquire the means. So that would be finding the pills. Emily then asked question 6. And remember, you always ask question 6. Have you done anything, started to do anything, or prepared to do anything to end your life? Sarah says she hasn't taken any actions to end her life. So based on Sarah's responses, Emily engages the group in a discussion about assessing Sarah's risk level. The group determines that while Sarah is experiencing suicidal thoughts, she doesn't appear to be at imminent risk. This is why the first session that we had a couple of weeks ago is so vital, because there was those levels of suicidal ideation and there was 5. This is why that's very important to understand that. So if you need to take another look at that. However, the group recognizes the seriousness of the situation and the need for ongoing support. So Emily guides the group in working with Sarah to develop her own personalized Stanley Brown safety plan. And together, they identify Sarah's warning signs, internal coping strategies, social contacts for distraction, family and friends who can offer support, and professional resources. They also discuss steps to make Sarah's environment safer. Throughout the group discussion, Emily encourages everyone to remain compassionate and non-judgmental. The group reassures Sarah that her feelings are valid. Remember earlier we said validate, and that help is available. They provide Sarah with resources, including the number for the crisis line and information about the support. Encourage her to reach out anytime that she needs support. After the group session, Emily reminds everyone to take a moment for self-care. She leads the group in a few deep breaths and a brief mindfulness exercise. Another just side note, if you Google progressive muscle relaxation, that is a very good relaxation technique that encompasses the entire body. And it really helps you notice where you're holding stress or any kind of fears or any tension. She also encourages members to debrief with each other or even a trusted friend or professional about any emotions that came up during this group session. This helps the group members process their own feelings and prepare to continue supporting others. This case study demonstrates how the tools and strategies we've discussed thus far, such as the CSSRS and the Stanley Brown Safety Plan, can be applied in a support group setting to provide life-saving support to someone experiencing suicidal thoughts. It also highlights the importance of empathy, active listening, and self-care when working with individuals in crisis. And what I love about this case study is that it wasn't a group session. And not only is that empowering for the client who is suicidal, but how empowering is it for the other support group members? They get to help someone else. How exciting. And not only that, but now this person who is suicidal has felt validated, heard, cared for, all these people. It was like a cheer team, just rooting her on to keep herself safe and basically steer clear of a crisis. And when they are in a crisis, be able to use that safety plan. So it's always important for them to keep that safety plan. So I have them take a picture of it on their phone, so they always have it. I know with some of my younger clients, you can't have your phone during instructional time. I will have them have a copy of the plan, put it in their backpack. Or if someone's going to work, put it in their purse, put it in their pocket. There's so many different ways to make sure that safety plan stays with them, because we never know when a crisis might be triggering. And that safety plan is like their light in that dark hole. We have learned a lot today.
Amy, thank you so much. So much information. For me, the biggest parts for learning this piece, and I started this journey with you a few years back, was to have a better confidence within myself. For me, what has been my support is not being nervous to ask those questions, not feeling the pressure of rescuing somebody. And so what I love that these tools allow, it allows a process, it allows a plan as the person in charge, so to speak. And our clients are already in this high emotional place. And it's my desire not to match that. And so what these tools have done for me is not to get in that same place the clients are. Because when we're both in these high emotions, it's going to be hard to get to any type of outcome. And so I just want to thank you for helping me on my journey to feel more confident as someone who serves clients, and to not be afraid to ask some of these harder questions and not be so fearful of what that outcome is going to be. And so I just want to say thank you for that. Hopefully that's how everybody's feeling here today. Thank you so much, Amy, for being here for us. It has been a gift. So thank you all. Have a great day, and reach out if you have any additional questions.